I'll let you just lead the Star Fox conversation, whatever you want to talk about.
Yeah, Star Fox for sure. We have been needing to talk about Star Fox.
Yeah, Star Fox for sure.
Oh, wow. Let's see here. Yeah, so talking about Star Fox is essential, I think.
Yeah.
Because we've been wanting to do it for a long time.
Give me a second. Okay. Should be better now.
Yeah. So we've been wanting to do the live stream for a really long time to talk a little bit about Star Fox and our history with it and stuff like that, and what we think of the current Star Fox situation and the fans. And you have a lot to say about this, so I wanted to bring you on here to discuss this with me.
Yeah, I do have an infinite amount of things to talk about, but where do you want to begin?
Well, we have to start with the games themselves, right? We can't really talk about all the stuff surrounding it without talking about the Star Fox franchise as a whole. So if you want, you can talk a little bit about how you first became a Star Fox fan and why you love the series so much.
Well, it's pretty simple for me. I mean, I was a kid once at one point, and my grandfather bought me a Super Nintendo with Star Fox, and I had a good time with it, and it always stuck with me.
Yeah.
But aside from that, maybe we should just talk about, what kind of game is Star Fox. That's one of those things that always confuses a lot of people.
Yeah. And I think there's a reason for that, because Star Fox has been kind of all over the map when it comes to Nintendo franchises. I would say it's changed the most out of every major Nintendo franchise I can think of, because usually they stay somewhat standard. They stay somewhat true to their roots, but Star Fox has been kind of all over the place since 64 came out.
Right.
Right.
I would say they're all closely related, except for Adventures on the GameCube.
Yeah.
It's literally Zelda gameplay,
Yeah.
not Star Fox at all. But something like Star Fox Command, for instance, which would seem very different to someone because it's turn-based.
Yeah.
And the missions are kind of repetitive. It's a lot of the same stuff. But what makes the Star Fox game Star Fox is there's certain rules that go along with these games, and there's certain mechanics that you're supposed to expand upon. If you were to look objectively at a game like Star Fox Command, it would be in the context of a game being on a handheld, and on a handheld, there's less processing power compared to the Wii U, for instance. So there's a less amount of actions you can perform. In Star Fox Command, what they do is they take the old school gameplay from Star Fox 64, where every 5 hits you get a power up. Like in 64, 5 hits you get a gold ring. You get another 5 hits, you get a laser upgrade, and then you do another 5 hits, and then you get a gold ring. And so on and so forth, but they change that up to a strategic element.
Yeah.
And the thing is, that is consistent with Star Fox, but it's a very small and minor part of Star Fox. But if you're not on the up and up, it would look radically different.
Yeah.
Don't know any better.
Yeah, Command did take a lot of cues from Star Fox 2, which had not been released at the time. It was developed by a lot of the people who worked on Star Fox 2, I believe.
Yeah.
So you've played Star Fox 2. I actually still have not gotten around to really playing a lot of it. So could you talk about the similarities between Star Fox 2 and Command a little bit more in detail?
Yeah, I can talk about it. I haven't fully mastered it either. It's the only game I haven't mastered.
Yeah. I just do not have time.
I don't want to. I just want to keep it kind of like a mystery, because once you get too good at a Star Fox game, the replay value does go down. But I would say first things first. I mean, a lot of people look at turn-based gameplay in Command, and Star Fox 2 is kind of like a novel idea.
Mm-hmm.
And
yes.
It is novel to a degree, but what people wouldn't understand, what it's actually doing is they're trying to do a pseudo all-range mode, because Star Fox 64 is the full evolution of that gameplay. Like in Star Fox 2, you probably notice where they are in the map correlates to what's going on, like an asteroid field, or maybe you approach the from the front or behind, and it'll emulate that. It is a pseudo all-range mode. It isn't like oh, we wanted turn-based because turn-based is a good idea. It was just a way to get around the idea of doing fully all-range combat. And I would say there's very little similarities between Star Fox 2 and Command, just because Star Fox Command has so little going on in the game. The only objective really is to destroy all the enemies, and that's it. And I think there's like flying sauce.
That's the case in Command 2, isn't it? That's what I recall from Command, is just going around the map, like destroying the enemies, protecting the Great Fox, and things along those lines.
Right. In some cases, like the ships are kind of built for like different circumstances.
Yeah.
Not always the case. They aren't as balanced as probably like a depth Star Fox player would want. It's pretty basic overall.
Yeah. Command is not a game I've returned to. I haven't returned to Assault a whole lot either. There's something about those games that just does not hold up as well as 64 or Zero.
What I'll tell you about Assault is what nobody will talk about. I have run into one person that understands the logic of Assault, but the way how Assault works is it's Star Fox gameplay. It definitely is.
Yeah.
And the problem with that is, or the problem with the Star Fox gameplay is the fact that they set out to make a multiplayer game in the beginning.
Yeah.
Only going to be multiplayer.
Yeah, the multiplayer is the best part. Yeah, everyone says that.
So what they did was they went halfway through development and they switched the game to make it a single player game.
Yeah.
But the game is not balanced for single player.
Yeah.
It's more balanced for multiplayer. So what they did was they took multiplayer assets and they injected into the single player, and that's why everything seems off balance.
Yeah.
And people who know nothing about Star Fox, they'll think like being on foot is like this radically different thing. It's like Zelda or something. It's not like Zelda. It's like Star Fox.
Well, Adventures is like Zelda.
It's still a lot like the R-Lane gameplay. It's just a different play style, and that's what Star Fox is always attempting to do.
Yeah.
New play styles that are just a derivative of like the R-Lane.
Yeah.
It's not like the Blue Marine's radically different from the R-Wing. It's not like the Jar-Wing is radically different from the R-Wing, and so on.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
But people don't think in that context. They're thinking like it's an entirely different game being played.
Yeah, I would say most fans would agree that Assault is the most similar to like the 64 formula, I would say, or from a gameplay perspective, it feels the most like it. It actually has like on rails levels, it actually has the same kind of it advances the plot in some respects. Assault seems to have gained a really dedicated following of people who think it's like the best post 64 Star Fox, and I was wondering if you agreed with that.
I don't agree with that, mainly because it is. I would say it is actually a bad opinion.
Yeah, I agree actually. Yeah.
And the thing is, it's technically a bad game because the mechanics don't work as they should.
Yeah, I agree.
If you're trying to make a single player game, you would not have a game like Assault at all. It's just a half-cocked version of multiplayer injected into the single player.
It doesn't even have online.
What?
It doesn't even have online. So it wasn't even. Yeah.
I was gonna say Star Fox 2 and Star Fox, just the original Star Fox and Zero. They're definitely all very similar.
Yeah.
But the problem, aside from the gameplay being so bad in Assault, and the reason why people get so divided about it is there is a psychological problem with Star Fox. It's not like people look at the games objectively. They think they're looking at the games objectively, but they really aren't. They have their own mindset of what they think the games are, and they never really learn the game to begin with.
Yeah, it does feel that way.
So when you see people with like these radically different opinions on things, the thing is they have their own mindset and they're trying to expand what they think they know. And the problem with Star Fox is it's not like a lot of action games where they write down and tell you the rules of the game and how the game expands over time. You need to go through trial and error. And that is the design flaw in Star Fox to some degree because of the trial and error.
Well, I'm not sure I would call it a flaw because you shouldn't have to explain how the game works. Like you should welcome the player to like experience it and like learn and grow as a player and like learn for themselves why the game is great. And the thing about Zero, and I think you agree with me on this.
Hang on 1 second. there's one problem with that. The thing is, you can get stuck in gridlock where you're constantly repeating the same mistakes over and over again. That's what I did for a long time because I didn't know how Star Fox actually worked as a game. Then when I found out, I said, oh, well, it all makes sense now. And I get it. The thing is, if you're going to persuade someone to an idea or a gameplay idea, you can't make it a conceptual thing. The conceptual idea would be like, you need to eat broccoli and you'll get stronger when you get older. People don't think that way because they can't compare to what that's like. Since there's no way to compare, people don't know what it's like to become a better pilot. They don't know what that means. So you need some way or some kind of system to bring the player to that higher level of playing. And you feel strong about it too. You don't want, because you can't actually talk about Star Fox in public because you just say, hey, you suck, and then the person just gets angry.
Yeah.
They don't want to talk about it.
Yeah, I think I know what you're talking about. I think with Zero, one of the things about Zero is that like it didn't necessarily reward people enough for playing the game very, very well. I had the impression that people beat the game once and were like, okay, that's it, I'm done with the game, and didn't necessarily realize that like all the really technical, really cool stuff you can do in that game, or how fun the controls can be used, to how flexible they are, and all the crazy stunts that they can pull. Because like there was no real reward for doing that because they'd already beaten the game at that point.
Well, I would say from an action game point of view, they do reward you enough, but we do live in instant gratification society, so people do have
definitely
a different view on what kind of rewards they should get. But in Star Fox Zero, a conceptual idea would be like you can shoot bombs really far in Star Fox Zero, and then at first glance you might say, who cares?
Yeah.
What does that make? But the thing is, you can't strategize something like shooting bombs very far away. And there's a boss, the Aqua Rosa, the alternative in the first level.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. Yep.
And there is an alternate route that most people don't know actually exists. But if you shoot down 3 of the turrets in the beginning of the game before the first shield comes down, it opens up an alternate route so you can take down the boss in less than like 30 seconds, opposed to like 2 minutes or like a minute and a half. And something like that for a kid to figure out, I think, would be a really big stretch. And I'm not sure how you're supposed to come up with that conclusion other than trial and error.
Well, it's supposed to be something you like replay and like discover for yourself, because like there's so much stuff like that in Zero where like you wouldn't necessarily know all the strategies to quickly beat the boss your first time, and like you're supposed to like go back and replay it and get better. But I feel like most people didn't really do that with Zero.
Right. I did read the strategy guide just to see if I didn't have like my own bias of how to strategize in a Star Fox game. They talk a lot about the same stuff that I do. They even talk about like the charge shots where you shoot indirectly and you rack up points.
Yeah.
And a lot of people don't know about that aspect of the game. And once you understand like little things like that, you start piecing it all together. The game becomes much grander than you originally thought.
Mm-hmm.
And again, that's all very conceptual. I mean, for myself as a kid growing up, I was not very good at like Star Fox games at all until I ran into people who knew how to play. And then that changed everything.
Yeah, it takes a while to learn how to play these games. I think people kind of forget that. I was playing Yoshi's Island today or the other day, and I was like breezing through the stuff that I had trouble with as a kid, and I don't know, like people don't really realize that they get better at games as they get older. They just sort of like accept it. Like this is their skill level. This is what they're comfortable with. This is what they can do.
Yeah, I do think action games are they need to be explicit about becoming better. Because when I bought the game for Sonic Mania a while ago, I did read the instruction manual, and they said an action game is like a sport. The more you play it, the better you get. The more fun it. And that's true with Star Fox as well. The thing is, that's an old school mindset that a lot of people aren't trained to.
Yeah. Modern gamers are like obsessed with this idea of being like games being like narratively driven, or being like exciting all the time, or like that instant gratification you were talking about. Like I feel like Nintendo games are really old school in this respect, where they don't really appeal to that demographic usually.
Yeah, I would say the replay value is high. Like, if you were to play Pikmin, you'd have to replay a game like that.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, even something like Breath of the Wild, you'd have to like go and you have to mess with all the equipment and refine it, figure out how this all works and how you can have a better experience. And that's true. That's true with a lot of Nintendo games. But Star Fox Zero is not Star Fox Zero, but just Star Fox in general. The thing is, the game kind of feels like it's not fully complete because the game is kind of hard to control. Not just like Star Fox Zero, but even like the original Star Fox is hard to control. But it's actually on purpose because they want you to learn how to move the R-Wing. They want you to figure out all the different techniques.
Oh, really? That was intentional? It wasn't like a technical limitation?
Well, I mean, there is technical limitations of the slow down,
Yeah.
drop, but at the same time, how the R-Wing moves, how it's kind of slow, and how it kind of glides into places, how the bosses seem very hard to it's all on purpose, and you have to figure out all the techniques. And then once you figure out the techniques, the game just becomes stupidly simple at that point.
Yeah, I didn't grow up with the original Star Fox at all. And when I first played it a couple of years back, I didn't care for it too much. And now that I'm playing it on the Switch, now that I've have a little bit of background with it, I am starting to get a little bit more into it. I do think I'll someday really start to enjoy it. But at the moment, I just really can't get through the visuals and just the antiquated nature of it, you know?
Yeah.
That's just my thoughts on the original. Because I'm quite a bit younger than you, I think. Because, the original is older than I am. So it is I was very young when like 64 came out. So it's the original is a bit too old school for me. So I guess I'm in that mindset that like a lot of younger Star Fox fans were with like Zero.
I like the original, but I'm like you. I mean, I'm not crazy about it. I mean, I really enjoyed it growing up, but I mean, something like 64 and Zero are so far ahead of.
Yeah. I think I agree with that. Yeah.
There's little room to go back and play it.
Mm-hmm.
There's just not a lot of different techniques to master because once you master Star Fox on the Super Nintendo, it just plays itself at that point.
Yeah, once you learn it. Mm-hmm. 64, Zero have like lots of stuff going on. You have like the branching paths in 64. You have like all those crazy alternate like situations you can get into, like the high scores. The medal system is great. Like I love 64. I think most people agree that that's one of the best games on N64. It's kind of interesting to see that like Zero sort of has the opposite.
Make this quick. I still think Star Fox 64 is underrated to a degree on 64.
Oh, really? Underrated?
Even though it has critical acclaim. But the reason why I think it's underrated is there's a very select few people that really like get into Star Fox.
Oh, yeah.
Play works. But once you figure out the scoring system, it like brings up an entirely different game.
64.
How beautifully like intricate the scoring system is in 64 because it literally has like infinite replay value, and people don't they don't realize that they play through the routes and they get the medals. And the problem with the medal system and just Star Fox in general is that a lot of people see medals as kind of like a gold star in a Mario game.
Yeah,
they're not built that way. They're built as a learning tool and to gauge how far you've come as a pilot. But they don't tell you that you can go much further than what the medal suggests. And that's where it becomes conceptual again. Well, how do you become so good? Then trial and error, or find someone who's better than you.
Yeah, I remember when I was very young, like playing through Star Fox 64 for the first time. Like I was happy just beating the game on like the easy path, and then like I was blown away when I got to like the left side of Venom and like fought Andross's true form. And then like I was blown away again when like I learned about the medal system and like all the crazy stuff. Learning there was a hard mode was like a mind-blowing thing for me. So 64 kept on delivering for like a really, really long time. Like I would say most people aren't even aware there is a hard mode in 64.
Yeah, I would say that too, actually.
Yeah. It's things like that. Like I feel like most people never really got the full value out of 64, or really get the full value out of most games. Really, like it feels like most people like buy games to sort of fit in with like the cool kids, to sort of be trendy or whatever. Like The Witcher 3 has sold like 20 million units, and
there is psychology to gaming. I mean,
yeah.
I don't want to deeply into the business side of things, but I am a businessman and I do understand how to sell things. And
Yeah.
I'll give you just a quick insight. When Star Fox Zero came out, Miyamoto did make a persuasion mistake in selling the game. What he said was Star Fox Zero was the kind of game that became more fun as you got better. That's a huge mistake he should have never said. Not because it's not true. That's always been consistent.
Yeah, it's true.
The thing is, people don't know what that means.
Yeah.
It applies it in their head.
It's not marketing speak.
What they're thinking is it's kind of like, he's being lazy, or what was that supposed to mean? That's stupid, I'm already good at games like that. But it's a certain mindset that comes with Star Fox, and I understood what Miyamoto meant by that, but a lot of people took that and reinterpreted it as something else.
Yeah, I would say this part. I would say Nintendo in general kind of struggles with marketing speak and like promoting their products, because like you always see these situations where people sort of like freak out over something Nintendo said or did in their games. Like I'm sure you're aware, like at least vaguely aware, what happened with like the Paper Mario games and how people freaked out over the sequels not being exactly like the Thousand Year Door. Like we see that happen with like Star Fox 2. It's just I don't know. Like, is it Nintendo's fault? Is it like the players' fault? Like, it's kind of hard to tell sometimes.
I would say Paper Mario is not exactly the same as Star Fox, but it is kind of in the same vein. The problem with Paper Mario is they did a complete genre change and they let everybody know about it. It went from like an RPG, like the Mario and Luigi series, but they turned it into more of an adventure game. And I can kind of see that argument a little bit. The problem with Star Fox is every time they add new content to a new Star Fox game, people can't tell the difference between what was new or what was old.
Yeah, because it's all like skill based, right?
Say what?
It's all skill based, because like it's all like stuff that only hardcore fans would notice or care about. Like we can talk about like how great the motion controls in Zero are all day, but like nobody believes us because like it has this stigma of being like completely broken because of like what a few corrupt game journalists wrote about it. It's just
well, there's one thing that would be a true admission somebody doesn't know how to play a Star Fox game. When people have played Zero and they just kind of play through it one time, they'll be like, this game would be great on the Switch. It'd be a lot of fun. That's a huge mistake. That's acknowledging the fact that they don't understand how the game works and they haven't been able to utilize
Yeah.
And the game just can't be put on the Switch because there are techniques you really, really need the gamepad for them. Would completely ruin the whole experience if you were to make it one screen.
Yeah. I was struggling with that too. Like, I would love Zero to like be re-released again and find a real audience, but like, oops.
All good. They should just make a new game, though. That's all they got to do. Just make a new one.
Yeah, just make a new one. I would love Zero to sort of get the reputation it deserves, but like it really can't work on the Switch because the gamepad is like instrumental to what makes that game fun. I just can't imagine the game without it.
I'm okay with Zero not getting the recognition. What I think it should get.
Yeah.
Well, what should happen, in my opinion, is they need to take everything great from Zero and put it in a new game because they were definitely on the right path.
Oh yeah, I agree. Like Zero is like probably
what everybody said, because I would definitely say objectively they're all wrong, completely wrong.
Yeah. People say like Zero is one of the worst games in the series and like one of the worst games Nintendo has ever put out. But like I would say it's like actually really, really good. It's kind of bizarre, right? But there are so many Wii U games that like they absolutely shit on for no reason. Like Zero is like right up there as being like one of the most hated, despite being like really, really good. And maybe you could talk a little bit about your experience with Zero and like your opinions on the backlash.
Well, my opinions on the backlash are very simple. People just didn't understand how Star Fox worked as a game. They had preconceived notions. But on top of that, there are other factors that make Star Fox Zero a hard sell. One thing a lot of people talk about is the fact that the Wii U was, out the door at that point. Switch was
People were only talking about the NX.
People wanted to accelerate that process, but on top of that, they did release games that weren't very good, like the Animal Crossing board game and the Metroid Federation Federation Force.
Whoa! I like Federation Force. Whoa! I'll defend Federation Force. Federation Force is really good.
But just listen to a second to the logic.
Okay.
What I'm going to say is, the thing is, those games were attacked relentlessly in the beginning. If you put Star Fox Zero next to it, no matter how good it is, part of that is going to come on to Star Fox Zero as well.
Yeah. It was happening to a lot of games back then. Yeah.
They shouldn't have meshed them together. They should have spaced out the timing for those.
Well, I don't think it was so much the timing. I think it was just like a matter of like people were really the Wii U was the NX was coming out, like the Switch was on the way, and people were anxious to learn more about that. So they were just attacking relentlessly all of these games from Nintendo, like pretty much everything they were releasing, and it was just ridiculous. And Star Fox Zero probably got some of the worst of that. I can't think of anything that got hit worse. Maybe Devil's Third, but that's the only thing that comes to mind. Like Animal Crossing is a legitimately bad game that I don't think has gotten the same kind of backlash that Zero has.
Well, here, I am a persuasion nut, and I understand psychology really well. But the reason why it was so insane for Star Fox Zero is people weren't necessarily emotionally attached to like the Animal Crossing board game, and they weren't emotionally attached to the Federation Force game because they wanted, they wanted like a prime time main series Metroid, so they didn't really care about that stuff. But Star Fox hadn't been around for a long time, so they had a new game. People are emotionally attached, and on reasonable levels of being emotionally attached to Star Fox. And Zero definitely has all the qualifications for a natural phenomenon that also happened during the 2016 election, the same fun.
Oh, yeah. Well, it was early in the year, though.
It's called cognitive dissonance, and it happens to everybody, and it happens all the time in business. And cognitive dissonance is when you have a worldview of how you think the world works. And then a lot of people think they understand the world through reason, and they can understand the world through facts. But the thing is, in the business world, we know that most decisions are not made based on facts. Instead, they're based on emotions, and people confuse their facts, which they think are real facts, or just emotions. And the problem with trying to reason with people with Star Fox Zero, be like, it's a good game and it has all these things. Everybody believes they have better facts than you, and they think if you understood their facts, they would bring you to their understanding. But it doesn't work that way. Mm-hmm. But since they have so little knowledge, they're stuck in cognitive dissonance. And what they'll do is they'll clamp down on their beliefs rather than being proven right through facts. I mean, real facts. What they'll do is they'll double down on what they originally thought, and they'll keep obscuring facts until their original thoughts were correct. They never come out and say, well, I've been wrong for like 2 decades. Thank you for clearing up the fact I've been stupid for all these years. Yeah. And now I'm going to live my life. Nobody does that. Nobody does that. You have to deal with that, and you have to just start over. I mean, Miyamoto just has to take his loss, make a better game, and communicate it next time.
Yeah. Star Fox Switch. I am optimistic that it's happening. Like Starlink, as much as I don't like the game, at the very least, they are doing more with the Star Fox license. So it is something they're talking and thinking about. So I do expect we'll get a new Star Fox game eventually. It's just a matter of when that's going to be and like how well it's going to do. I think with the groundwork they laid with Zero, they're on the right track. I just hope they weren't scared off by like the backlash. I really wonder what like their internal thought process is as to what made Zero have this kind of reception.
Right. When I look at it, Miyamoto definitely seems to understand how Star Fox works as a game.
Oh yeah, definitely.
But what he has trouble with is communicating the game to a new audience because again, it's instant gratification.
Yeah.
Learn the game, but I don't think he's going to sacrifice what is good about Star Fox just before complaining. I think, to me, it's very clear that he understands that people didn't understand the 2 screens.
Oh, yeah, definitely. He's pretty much said as much.
Everybody was trying to look at 2 screens at the same time. Everyone said, that's illogical. You can't do that. The thing is, Miyamoto understands you can't look at 2 screens at the same time. It's just that each screen was used for a very specific purpose. So you really just one screen all the time. You don't play both screens at the same time. You pick which one is the most important at the moment. Like if you're shooting at something, you use the cockpit, or if you want to see around you, you use the TV. But nobody got into that, so that's something you can just throw away and then just make it a single screen experience and make it easier for people to understand. So I think you will figure it out.
Yeah. I think it's in the cards. I was kind of expecting to hear something by now, to be honest with you. Maybe they're putting a lot of effort into it, but I don't know. Like, I would hope it would be soon. Like, I don't want to wait. Like,
I do see it as branding right now. I would say it's too soon for a brand new Star Fox game.
Yeah, maybe.
But to me, it has been a lot of branding lately, and the branding would be what is Star Fox as a game? What was it supposed to be? Because they did release Star Fox Zero and Guard in 2016. They did release Star Fox and Star Fox 2 in 2017 on the Super Nintendo Classic. In 2018, they did release Starlink, and then in 2019, they released Star Fox 64 3D and also new content for Starlink, and that is all very consistent to the message.
Star Fox. A lot of people aren't aware of it, but Star Fox has been back in focus on a Nintendo. They've been releasing new content with the brand since Zero came out. So it does feel like a new Star Fox game is on the way. So maybe E3 2020 we'll hear something. Do you think?
Yeah, possibly. Maybe even then, but I think it's actually very close. I thought maybe this year, but I still thought it was kind of too soon.
Yeah. They could have announced it this year, I'm sure. It just another year, I think. Let people forget about Zero for a bit and go back to it later when people aren't like necessarily raging about it. Because I do feel that like a lot of the rage towards Zero has sort of died down with time, like quite significantly, actually.
Well, some people have sit down and just figured out the game.
Yeah, a lot of people have. Yeah. Just compare like recent YouTube reviews to like newer ones, or to like the older ones. Like the older ones clearly had no idea what they were doing. Just like it was so. I watched Darkside Phil review the game back when it first came out, and it's kind of interesting to see like someone who's notoriously terrible at games play the game, because like it really showcases that like people don't know how to play Zero, and that's why they hated it so much.
Right. To me, not knowing how to play and hating the game totally makes sense, and they should have made it clear to begin with. But I think the reoccurring problem will continue with Star Fox, but I do think there is a way to beat it.
Yeah.
And the way to beat that is whenever they show a new Star Fox game, they always have some this some pencil dick playing the game and he doesn't know what he's doing. And they're like the people that are supposed to show off the game. What they should do is to get actual pro Star Fox players to play these games.
So you want to play the new Star Fox before it comes out? For the chat who's not aware, this guy is one of the best Star Fox Zero players in the world. Is that still true?
Yeah, it's still true.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, I've broken world records multiple times. I believe I'm still second. But
yeah.
Where were we? I forget.
Yeah, we were talking about promoting Zero and how like you need to have pro Star Fox players. Yeah.
They should just get people who are really good at Star Fox to play the game. When you show some guy that just sucks at Star Fox playing the game, everyone's gonna think the game sucks. But with an action game, you should find somebody who's actually pretty competent to pull off all the moves that they're talking about, rather than saying, "Look at these motion controls and all the cool shit you can do," and then you're looking at it and you're like, "What bullshit?"
Yeah. I remember when Zero. I remember when people were first starting to look for reasons to not like Zero. They had this tendency to refer to game journal opinions to sort of justify their skepticism. Like I had people telling me like, "Oh, I played the game and I can tell you the controls don't work," and within like 10 minutes.
Like cognitive dissonance, like I was talking about.
Yeah.
You feel forever with that stuff, but
Yeah. There were all sorts of people like that. Like people who were invited to E3. You have like YouTubers. I can think of one person in particular. I don't want to say his name because I don't want to promote his channel, but I remember one person like fighting with me personally about it. And in the end, I feel like I was right. The controls are not broken.
I know what you're talking about. That guy, he likes Starlink, and he's not a real Star Fox fan. And when I mean he's not a real Star Fox fan, it's the fact that he doesn't know how the games work. like I would say a real Zelda fan would be somebody who could tell me everything intrinsically about the Zelda games.
Yeah, I'm a Zelda fan.
This guy didn't know anything about Star Fox at all, and he was acting like what he was saying was like gospel or something.
Yeah.
Just bullshit.
That's another thing about Star Fox I've noticed. It feels like a lot of the fans you see online aren't fans of the actual games. And we've talked about this a lot, like in private discussions and stuff like that. Like, the fans don't feel like they actually like the games. They like the character designs and like they're invested in like the storylines. It's all very strange.
Yeah, that would be true with kids, and then there's also the weirdos out there, and there's nothing you can really do about that. But you need to appeal to the normies no matter what.
Yeah. It needs to have normie appeal.
Just make the game understandable. Even if it's tricky, you got to make it understandable. Once you communicate it, people will be open to trying new things.
Yeah. Like it feels like a lack of communication more than anything else. It feels like this sort of weird sort of it feels like everything that Star Fox has kind of been drowned out by like certain aspects of like the Nintendo fan base. Like you can't really talk about Star Fox with like someone shouting do a barrel roll at you and like that's a meme, I know, but like that's not what Star Fox is. There's more to it than that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I do. And there is a lot of that. I was just thinking about like I guess about like the game journalists and all that stuff. It's really hard to keep that in particular unless you get somebody who really knows something about Star Fox. Like Gerard was pretty close to being on the money.
Oh yeah. The completionist. Yeah, he was like I think the best review of the game when it first came out. Like I've always said that. Yeah.
The only thing I would say about him is he didn't go far enough.
I agree.
But there was a lot more to the game than what he discovered. And here's like an example of more. There's more to the game than he actually is aware of. And here's another conceptual idea, which is a design flaw of Star Fox. And Star Fox Zero has a new side to it. A lot of people aren't aware of. There is the high score route for like destroying enemies. You know, like a hit run. How many hits you get?
Yep.
And then they also balance the game for speed runs. They noticed people like playing Star Fox for doing like speed runs, so they did balance the game for how quickly you can complete things.
Oh, really? Yeah, I didn't know that actually.
And Zonus has a very weird stage where it's just the R wing and you fly through it and you hit the buttons and it's over, right?
Yeah.
Now that would be like the speed part of it, but people wouldn't understand how to look at it in the context of hits. The thing is, there are these silver tokens you collect in the main game in Zonus when you're in the R wing, and you get a medal for it. And you think, well, I got all those things, but so what? What it's actually doing is training you how the scoring system works for hits if you're going to play it in arcade mode. Because what you want to do is you want to collect all the bombs, and then when you're in full capacity of bombs, every 5 bombs, and then any additional bombs 3 hit. That's also true with the lasers. If you max out to hyper lasers and then you grab more of the hyper lasers, your hit counter keeps going up +3. So you need to strategize like all these different, I guess like light outposts. You need to hack them and do all these different things. You need to search all these different crevices. And a lot of these crevices are where these silver coins were when you were playing in the main game. So it's there's 2 play styles going on at the same time. People just didn't realize that was the function of the game.
Yeah. I think this is one of the problems with Zero is that like everything it does really, really well seems to be like geared towards like super hardcore players and isn't necessarily like appealing to normies. And I think that's like the problem with Star Fox in general is that like it has a lot of technical depth, but like normies don't care about like a technical depth. They like shallow. They like the sort of the mass appeal sort of thing, sort of like the Skyrim, you know, the Skyrim method of having this like wide ocean that's like as deep as a puddle.
Yeah, I would say the way you solve that is you make the person feel smart and figuring it out. The thing is, they do like the normie stuff where it's all superficial and face value stuff. But when someone figures out something that's really cool and secret, what they want to do is go around and share it with people. And Star Fox needs to have something like that because Star Fox definitely thrives if you're able to share like all these different techniques with people around you. I would say it's a lot more fun if you're able to talk to other players and their experience and figure out all the different strategies.
Yeah. I think I was saying on stream the other day that like Star Fox Zero really needed like an online leaderboard so you could sort of like compete with other players and like see how well you're doing and see like who the best players in the world were. Do you agree with that? Or
yeah, I agree with that. I think maybe take it a step further and have like a short YouTube clip that you can post of just doing like a really crazy combo that like nobody has discovered yet.
Yeah, you could probably do that on Switch actually. Yeah, Switch has the screenshot button, so it should be practical for a Star Fox Switch.
That would be practical, yeah.
Yeah. So Star Fox Switch, I think, has the potential to be really, really good if it gets made. We're assuming it is. I hope it is. Star Fox would probably be one of my favorite Nintendo franchises if the series was more consistent. There just has not been enough good games over the years to really consider it like my absolute favorite.
Yeah, it's definitely my absolute favorite, but I just need a couple of good games. I play Star Fox 2. I play Zero and 64, of course, but everything else, like the GameCube stuff and like Command, I mean, fuck it. I mean, it's just awful. It really is awful.
Yeah. Like I have not played.
I hate the stories. They're really baggy. I can't stand them.
Yeah, the stories that Command. Yeah, they're all awful in really weird, really different ways too. Like Adventure has that like Adventure. I remember this really well. Like playing through Adventure for the first time. Adventures. Like I felt like Fox was like a completely different character. It was in 64. Like even as a kid, like he was like obnoxious to people. He would like talk shit to like to Tricky. He would like be rude to people he was talking to. Like what's up with that? It's just.
Well, to me, it does make sense because they made an entirely different game. And then they just implanted all the Star Fox stuff. So I'm not too surprised about that.
Yeah. It's just weirdly all over the place. I just. Is this what Fox is supposed to be like? Like him lusting after Crystal? It's just that's actually really, really funny when like you go up to Crystal for the first time and he's just like, and like that saxophone music starts playing. Hang on, I guess I can play it. Let's see. It's like that really generic.
I know what you're talking about.
Though, yeah. Let's wait for the chat though.
That was very Rareware at the time.
Yeah. Rareware was like, wait.
They did stuff like that all the time, huh?
Yeah. Rare was like awesome, and yet they somehow, I can't find it. Whatever.
It's all good. I know what you're talking
about. Yeah. I think the chat knows what I'm talking about, but I just can't find it off the top of my head. But yeah. It has a lot of personality. Rare had such great personality. Adventures had a lot of really good ideas. It just really, well, I guess it could have worked as a Star Fox game. Like if it just implemented the Star Fox aspects better. But like it just did, like it has like this really unique personality and this.
Well, I would say it'd be impossible to put in like pure Star Fox gameplay into Adventures because it is literally doing an entirely different thing.
Yeah.
It just like commit to whatever it was doing.
Yeah. Adventures was just weird. I don't think the game is good, but like I'm weirdly attached to it regardless. It's definitely the Star Fox game. The non-good Star Fox, the worst Star Fox game that I've played the most. Like I haven't really played Assault and Command all that often, but I go back to Adventures quite a bit, like every 5 years or so, and I'm just it's just kind of weird.
I played Adventures a little while ago, maybe like several years ago. It was okay. I mean, the thing is, it's too basic for me. It really doesn't have any replay.
Yeah, it's really basic. Like it's like a mediocre Zelda clone. When you get right down to it, it's just like Zelda. It's Zelda with dinosaurs. Like you even have like the girl and the crystal. It's just it rips so much from Zelda. It's like impossible to take seriously. It really is just a copycat game. Like
I do have a hypothesis on Rareware that I can't really confirm, but I would love to know if this is true. I always thought Rareware was constantly stealing from Miyamoto because Donkey Kong Country is a lot like Super Mario World.
Oh yeah.
That's do it. It's a lot like Mario 64, and then their dinosaur game's a lot like Ocarina of Time, and I thought maybe Miyamoto was just getting angry that they were getting a whole bunch of press for just stealing from him.
I wonder. Like that does seem to be the case. They do seem to kind of follow the leader when it comes to like what Nintendo was doing.
And if they were any good, they would still exist today, but they don't because they weren't as good as I guess everybody thought.
Well, I really like them. Like, I think they did enough usually to really justify it. Like, Banjo-Kazooie is like a completely different game from Super Mario 64. I would say I actually prefer
I'm not going to
Banjo-Kazooie.
attack the games. All I'm saying is I can see the inspiration, and I think Miyamoto.
Yeah. And it's really weird, right? Like when Star Fox Zero first came out, like there was this weird narrative that Miyamoto was angry at. Have you ever seen that? Maybe we shouldn't talk about this. This is kind of off topic, but there was this video a while back from Guru Larry about how like Miyamoto stole all the ideas from Star Fox 2 and put them into 64. Yeah, have you seen that video?
I haven't heard that, but the thing is, they use a very small amount from like
that's what I said. It was like such a ridiculous claim.
It was like 20% from like Star Fox 2. So.
Yeah, it was such a weird claim, and like it's just so ridiculous that you would accuse Miyamoto of like plagiarizing from someone who was working for him. It doesn't make any sense to me at all. He was paying that team to make that game to begin with. I don't understand that. It's just it was such a weird narrative.
It's just rumors though, in the way.
Rumors are just.
Say what? Sorry.
Yeah, rumors are all over the place. You hear all sorts of crazy shit. It's just unbelievable, especially if you like follow the gaming leaking community, like I was doing a couple of years ago. They come out with like all sorts of stuff, like, oh, Retro Studios is going bankrupt. They're in trouble. They're not putting out games, and then suddenly, like, oh, they're developing Metroid Prime 4. Okay, sure, whatever.
Right. The problem with the rumor thing is. I mean, there is confirmation bias where one guy says one thing and then another guy agrees with them, and then all of a sudden it looks like these people are right. They're really right, you know?
Yeah. We've kind of been seeing that with like Smash leaks, where like a lot of this stuff has been getting out ahead of time, and people just sort of latch onto it, and
Yeah, I don't follow Smash much because I don't really play it. I'm just not a
I haven't been following the DLC at all. I haven't been playing the game all that much since I like cleared, got most everything in it. It's I don't think I like Ultimate as much as most of the others. It's really technically fun to play, but It doesn't have enough single player content, which is what I really like in this kind of game. So, oof.
Right. Yeah, I'm just kind of smashed out. I just can't really get into it anymore. So
I think I'm at that point now. Like Ultimate is just it just came too soon after Smash 4 for me. I think like a lot of these other
people that didn't buy it, we used so it was like a brand new game to them.
Yeah. For us, it was like we've kind of seen this already. I'll just wait for the next one, like 10 years from now. I hope it's 10 years from now. We need a break.
Yeah.
Sakurai needs to like make other stuff. Like Kid Icarus Uprising was phenomenal. And he hasn't made a new IP since. Like, a new non-Smash game since, I should say. Oops.
A lot of feedback.
What? What'd you say? I kind of lost you for a second.
A lot of feedback. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Okay. Yeah, I think Star Fox is okay, but the thing is, they will have to get in front of like other people creating narratives and all that stuff.
Yeah, I think they just need a consistent team. They just need to like take the effort to get a team together to really think about, okay, how can we make Star Fox mainstream? And like they have all the concepts, they have like all the cool ideas. They just have to sort of like tie it together.
Think about it like this: there's Astral Chain, right? And that is an action game, and a lot like Star Fox, it takes a lot of practice to get really good at the game.
Yeah.
Now, what they did was they framed it correctly and what kind of game it was.
I would say so.
Paying attention to the marketing of Astral Chain, but the thing is, all the people in the media were already on with Astral Chain. Then everyone's like, "Oh, look, all the reviewers say it's good, so it must be good." And then people were completely echoing the same talking points as the mainstream journalists and stuff. So it isn't so much about facts and reason. With these games, you have to frame it correctly.
Yeah. The marketing needs to be like there, and I think the Switch marketing is like has been way more on point, much more than like the Wii U has. Like people actually know about the games. They know what's coming out. They know that like the Switch exists. It's a way different ball game here, and it's kind of interesting how we can like jump from like all these crazy releases in like such a short amount of time. Like, look at all this stuff I have like sitting right in front of me. I have like Astral Chain, I have Daemon X Machina, I have Dead Cells, I have SNK Anniversary Collection, I have Yeast, I have Collection of Mana. Like, just
Right. Yeah, everybody is on the up and up these days.
Yeah, so let's see. Have we talked about every Star Fox game? Assault, we talked about a little. We talked about Adventure. We talked about Star Fox 2. We talked about the original. We talked about 64. I guess, have we talked enough about Command? We kind of touched on that one a little bit. Maybe we can talk about the story.
But I don't know. Anything you have in mind?
Command is, we were talking about the problems with each of these Star Fox games. Command is a really, I don't even know what it is. It's like a space opera with Star Fox characters. Like, it's about Fox going through going through a divorce with Crystal, basically, who leaves him for another cat. It's so ridiculous.
I do think they should watch the story stuff. One thing I really hate about the storytelling in Star Fox is how like all the characters get like prematurely old really fucking quickly. Like I don't know why they did that. Like if you're looking at like the Star Fox 64 canon, everybody's like old people. By the time you get to Adventures, like what the hell is that? It looks depressing. But I do think they nailed it down in Zero in the storytelling. A lot of people don't understand how the story works in Star Fox Zero. I think it's like a copy and paste, but that's actually not true at all.
Yeah, it's not.
You want me to go over that really quickly?
Yeah, we might as well. Like, Zero needs more credibility. People need to talk about Zero more, I should say.
The way how the story works in Star Fox Zero, which is a little bit of a screenwriting error that they made it. The difference between 64 and Zero is in Zero they made the story in the context of Fox McCloud. It's in the first person, and it goes with the gimmick of looking through the cockpit as if you're Fox McCloud.
Yeah.
Star Fox 64 is told in the third person as an outer body experience, looking at the Star Fox game and the whole Wildlight system. But Zero is in the context of Fox McCloud's eyes, and the story is evolving as it goes along, and everything you know is everything Fox knows, so you don't have any outside knowledge of events. And the way how they make that different is they tell the original story, when the prologue comes down with all the words of all the events leading up to the Lilac Wars in Star Fox 64. They do that in Zero, but the difference is it's Fox recounting these events himself. And that story is passed down from Peppy Hare, which Peppy Hare also got that story from General Pepper. So it's this hand-me-down story that goes to Fox. And as you go through the game, it feels a lot like Star Fox 64. And it's the same story. And then it becomes different when they have when they discover the portal technology. And then that's kind of like the second act in the screenwriting. Like, okay, here's the new event. There's these teleportation devices where they can transport troops at any time. We have to stop them. And then the third act opens up with the surprise when they find out General Pepper actually has a teleportation device, and they don't know why that's true. Fox wants to know why he actually possesses this technology. And the fact is, the hand-me-down story in the beginning of Star Fox Zero was not the real story. It was actually a lie crafted between Peppy and also General Pepper. It was a conspiracy.
Yep.
And the real story was the fact that James didn't sacrifice to kill himself. He teleported Andros to another dimension. And a lot of people miss that because there's a lot of shit going on and it's in the first person.
Yeah.
It asks you to think a lot harder than the average person should. And then at the end of the game, you question whether Andros is like a good guy or a bad guy, and it alludes to the fact that James is still alive. But
a lot of people never really picked up on that. Like, James is still alive in this in Zero. It's just kind of an interesting thing. Like, it feels almost like Zero had like a lot of ideas planned, but like a lot of them never really got off the ground in development. Like, they never really they didn't emphasize them enough in the game. Like, people just miss this kind of stuff. It's just kind of bizarre. Like, a lot of people will say the story is like is weak. Like you said, like a lot of people think it's just a rehash, but it's really not.
Right. I would say it is a little bit of a screenwriting error. Thing is, if you were writing a book, you would make everything in the context of the person in their mind.
Yeah.
And a game is closer to like like a movie or a cartoon. Since I do animation and cartooning, I understand how this stuff works. But since Star Fox Zero is more written like a book than it is like a movie, because if you're in a movie, or just to give some context, if you're writing a book, you would say this room is dirty. But if you're writing a movie, you would have the character walk inside the room and wipe their finger like on a desk, look at the dust, and then say this room is filthy. And the thing is, that's the problem with the storytelling. You're trying to get into the mind of
yeah. It doesn't like. I think it usually doesn't tell the story through the game enough. Like I think it kind of yeah.
It has a lot on your part, and I do get it, but I can see how people miss it. It doesn't make sense why they would.
Yeah. This is something I've been saying on my channel for a while now, and I think you agree with me. Is that like games should not be movies. If they have a story, they should showcase that story through the gameplay. Like it should not be something that you have to watch to like understand. Do you have any thoughts on that? What?
Right, I agree.
Yeah. Like movies are great. I like movies. I like books. I'm getting into comics. I love games. But like I don't want games to be movies, because what happens is that like it comes up. It happens with like The Last of Us, right? Where you put so much effort in the cinematography, you essentially make this really mediocre movie. It just that doesn't really have any real gameplay value to it. It's just it's just so frustrating.
I can go down a big list
of games that do that.
Right.
Yeah. Like I feel like. Yeah, like Doug TenNapel was talking about this on a stream a while back. I know you're a fan of his.
I knew he was a game developer, but I didn't think he thought critically about the
industry. Yeah. He was talking about how back in the day, like beating a level in a game and getting like a cutscene was supposed to be like a reward for like the players, like advance the story.
A bunch of cool shit,
right? Yeah. It was supposed to be like a reward and a break before you like go on to the next level. Like today, he was talking about how it feels like game developers are creating a story and the game itself doesn't actually matter. Like you have stuff like the David Cage games where you're basically just going from place to place, like going from cutscene to cutscene. You have like The Last of Us where like the developers will like try to tell you that the game is supposed to be deep and profound when it isn't. You have Death Stranding, the newest Kojima game. Just okay. Have you been following Death Stranding at all?
I haven't been following it. The only coverage I see is people bitching about it.
Oh boy. There is a reason for that. This game looks like a complete disaster. It looks like
the kind of game I hate. I can't stand walking simulators. I just can't fucking stand it.
Yeah, you would despise this.
I just don't buy into it.
Yeah, this game is like it's not even a walking simulator. It's a hiking simulator. It looks like you go through the mountains, like slowly walking, carrying stuff to place to place. Like it looks awful. Like I am not exaggerating. It looks like that's all it is. I am not joking. That is all they've shown so far, and it just.
I don't have any concrete opinions on it though, but it doesn't look interesting.
Yeah, it doesn't. Like the only reason anybody's talking about it at all is because Kojima is involved, and it's starting to look like this is going to like destroy his credibility as like the game auteur. This is
for like the guy coming up with a new novel idea, but I think the people surrounding him are making a bigger deal out of things that they shouldn't make a big deal out of. And one thing I would say is journalists, they like to comment on things I don't understand.
Yeah.
They have like a profound understanding. Now, I feel like talking about one guy in particular that's like on the internet. I don't know. Should I name drop or no?
Who is it?
Well, I was just thinking of like Nintendo personalities. I don't have anything big to say, like anything.
Yeah, you can talk about Nintendo personalities, sure.
Yeah. The thing is, when I look at people kind of like BitBlock, for instance.
Oh, that guy.
The thing is, like, when he does it in the context of like Star Fox, he tries to apply knowledge he doesn't understand.
Oh yeah.
And he thinks it's like a real argument. The thing is, that's the trouble with a lot of journalists, and I think that's like a valid opinion. There is such a thing as a bad opinion.
Oh yeah, definitely. An ignorant one.
There are bad opinions, and I would say when it comes to certain things, yeah, he definitely doesn't have any knowledge on the topic.
Yeah. The Fliplock has to be like one of the absolute the worst Nintendo YouTubers out there. I can't think of anyone.
When it comes to like Animal Crossing, the guy like knows everything. But
oh yeah.
When it comes to something that's kind of intense, kind of like Star Fox, I mean, that's where everything kind of falls apart.
It's so bizarre. Like he obsessively like attacks anything that doesn't like fit his like specific interest. It's just so ridiculous.
Right. Just have to live with that. Unfortunately, it's just the way of the world.
Yeah, but you get a lot of that from YouTubers these days. It's one of the reasons I'm so critical of them is that they're so invested.
Frankly, I'm a lot smarter than they are, so don't bother.
Yeah. Like I feel like we have jobs, we have like careers. These are like people who sort of like exist to get angry at things over the internet. It's so bizarre. Like I get people.
That's actually a really good point, because same thing with like news journalism. Say things that aren't true. You just say things that are outrageous so you get clicks.
Yeah, hashtag fake news.
Fake news.
Yeah. Fake news in like game journalism is like becoming a real problem. I don't know. Like I'm seeing indie games become critical darlings despite being like downright abysmal. I'm seeing like great games being shit on. It's just I straight up don't even follow game journalism anymore because like, I know that these people do not speak to me.
Right. Yeah. Again, I just don't take them seriously. I genuinely believe I'm a lot smarter than them, so I don't take their.
Oh yeah. No doubt. Like game journalists are like the stupidest motherfuckers on the planet. It's just
they're really fucking stupid.
Yeah, they are. Like I don't know. Like seeing them, get caught like playing a game for like, not even 2 hours. Like that happens all the time. You just know it. Like that guy who got pinned for not playing Dead Cells. He wrote a review for it, even though he didn't even like play the game. It's just.
Yeah, it makes sense though. You're trying to meet a deadline and then you bullshit. That's probably part of it. Just incompetent people.
Yeah, probably.
Well, everywhere.
But like it's everywhere. Like there are no good game journalists. There is no one.
But here's the problem with game journalism, or one big salient point. Some games are very easy to understand. You can sit down and write a review. You could probably write a review for like New Super Mario Brothers U very quickly.
Yeah, probably.
Experiencing the whole game. You probably get like the whole gist of the game in probably like 30 minutes or something. But if you play like a really deep action game, kind of like Demon X Machina, that would take a while to learn.
Yeah, that is kind of a problem. Like,
you have to kind of really play it to have a real opinion on it.
I don't know. Like the issue is that like I think that the game journalism industry like needs to fundamentally change. Like they need to stop focusing on like new releases and like just talk about like games you should be buying that are already out. Like it feels like nobody really talks about like a really good older games that like you may have overlooked. Like it feels like they're mostly just trying to sell you new stuff. Like, ooh, look at this new Watch Dogs trailer. You can play as everyone. It's like I don't like it. I don't support it. What'd you say? Oh, you keep cutting out.
Yeah, same.
Yeah, okay. So I was just talking about like how you can't trust game journalists at all.
Yeah, same. But yeah, I think you're talking about Dead Cells or something. But
yeah, I brought up Watch Dogs. Here's like a AAA gaming franchise that has like 2 poor entries, and yet here we are on the 3rd one, and the same people are still trying to convince us that this one is going to be good. It's just ridiculous.
Well, it's a persuasion game. Unfortunately, it's just the way it is. Now, I'm going to go a little bit and attack Zelda right now.
Oh, come on.
I'm going to make it very brief. The thing about Zelda is, I'll show you a persuasion technique that they use. For Zelda, they gave it 10s across the board for Breath of the Wild, right?
Yeah.
Now, you can agree or disagree all you want on that, but the way how they present that information is very biased. And the way how that's biased is, one, these people are emotionally attached to Zelda, so they have a much higher scale on how much they like Zelda, how much they like this game.
Well, I'm going to stop you there.
One second.
Okay.
And then what they do on top of that is they do have complaints about Zelda, how to make a better Zelda game.
Yeah.
But they want to go a little bit further. So instead of knocking down the game, what they did was, like IGN, they presented the score of a perfect 10. And then the next day, just to avoid backlash from the community attacking them, because the Zelda community is extremely fucking crazy and they will attack you if you attack Zelda. So what they did was they showed an article the next day showing things that they would like better about Zelda. That's framing. And a lot of the gaming industry is just about framing things. It has nothing to do about facts, logic, reason. The people that are big Zelda fans, they like it, even if it's not perfect. So they do have a very strong opinion, stronger than someone like me who doesn't play Zelda. So they're going to have a much different scale.
Yeah. The thing about Breath of the Wild is I don't think it got perfect scores because it was a Zelda game. I think it got perfect scores because it was an open world game, which I think is like completely different. And
I would definitely say that's part of it.
Yeah.
There definitely is bias towards open world games where people think it's innately good.
Yeah. Breath of the Wild is really good, but like there's this weird sort of tendency in which game journalists will like shit on certain games simply for not being open world. Like you sort of have this situation with what's a good example?
Pokemon.
I guess Pokemon's a good example. I think Star Fox Zero sort of got slammed for like having those like rail shooting levels instead of just being like this elaborate open universe.
The thing is, you can use the open world argument for literally like anything.
Yeah. Like it's just like
the problem with the open world thing is people don't think of the context of like gameplay, like we were talking about.
Oh yeah. Like they just want to be impressed.
Just because it's open world, Zelda has very specific gameplay that works with me. Star Fox and Kirby do not. They have their own kind of thing going on. And people don't think that deeply.
Yeah, it just it's one of those things. I feel like game journalists are like more interested in like the tight visuals, the open world, look at all the things I can do. Like not actually thinking about like the game itself, you know?
Right. That is hard to beat because the most powerful persuasion is visual persuasion, and if people are going to be awed by world or graphics or maybe just a cutscene, they are going to put extreme weights on those things. Kind of like in Starlink, a lot of people said, "Oh, this is going to be like the best Star Fox game ever." And they're looking at the cutscenes, but when you sit down and play the game, it's very basic compared to the Star Fox game. So people are persuaded visually more than they are like a conceptual idea of how the game works and what you're going to be doing.
I love how we had a Star Fox stream and we didn't bring up Starlink at all until just now. Yeah, Starlink is not even worth mentioning. I suppose we should mention it, considering like the weird sort of like pre-release hype it got from like people who were insisting that this was like going to be the best Star Fox game.
Right, yeah. To me, it's not even close to being
Yeah, it's not even good.
Star Fox game. I think it's just average as fuck.
Yeah. I don't even think that. Like, I think it's bad. Like I'll defend Adventures. I'll like to an extent. Like, I think the bad Star Fox games, like Adventures, Assault, Command. Like, I think all of those are better than this.
Those games, but at the same time, since I know what Star Fox gameplay is, I just can't bring myself to play Starlink and fucking.
Yeah.
But I would play it as just as a crossover, which it is. That's all it is.
Yeah, that's all I cared about was like the crossover. Like the game itself is like boring. It's just you're just cruising around a planet, like just killing the same kind of enemies over and over again. It just.
Yeah. It has very shallow depth too.
It's super shallow. There's.
You can combine like all these different weapons and all these ship parts, but you don't like get to reap any reward for like becoming a whiz at combining stats. It just doesn't change anything. It's not like
it's not fun. Yeah,
it's all compact.
Like maybe it would have been interesting if it was like Daemon X Machina and you could sort of like build your ship and like customize it and stuff like that and do all this crazy stuff.
Machina does have something kind of similar, but it's an entirely different mindset. And I noticed Demon X Machina kind of has the same thing as Star Fox Zero. They had to bring down the graphics for the intense gameplay because the process power is really intense.
Yeah. Funny how no one brought that up. So many people brought up how terrible Star Fox Zero looked pre-release as a justification.
But I actually did like the visuals.
Yeah, I did too. I don't understand this weird rage about it. And then Starlink comes out, looks terrible, like way worse than Zero, and people said that looked amazing. It's just so bizarre.
It is framing again. I mean, Wii U does bring a stigma of its own.
Yeah, it's really bizarre. Like,
here's another thing: the Switch has a bright future that we can all see.
Yeah, definitely.
People are more influenced not by what they have, what they believe that they can do, or rather, people are more influenced by where they think things are going. If people think things are going terribly, they're going to be more persuaded towards thinking in a more negative light. In the Switch, you could be a little bit more optimistic because everybody likes the Switch and the marketing is great and everybody's on board and I'm on too. And that works. You can't do that with the Wii U. Everybody is constantly punching up all the time, so you can't throw any kind of optimistic in there. Everybody just calls you.
You couldn't say anything positive about Wii U without being called like a fanboy. Like you couldn't praise Star Fox Zero without like people accusing you of being a fanboy. It just kind of
took all the punches. I could care less though.
Yeah, it just felt like you were fighting against a brick wall. Like just trying to tell people that this game was good was difficult because you always had people coming in like, no, it's garbage. IGN told me so. It's just no.
Yeah. Well, I did have the completionist on my side.
Yeah. The completionist was like.
He really was.
Yeah. The completionist was like the beginning of the end of that narrative, I think, because he sort of like he did put that on his best games of 2016 list. He did like praise it in his review. He did do a discussion with it. I think he did. I think he debunked a lot of what like GameXplain was trying to push about it, because GameXplain was one of those people, one of those YouTubers that were trying to push this narrative, like, this game is bad.
I thought Andre really liked Star Fox Zero.
Oh, did he?
It's the people around him that weren't so keen on it.
Oh, okay, yeah. It's hard to keep track sometimes. I only know Andre.
Andre does figure out games, so I do have respect for him in that regard.
Well, in that regard, yeah. Maybe not in some other things, but...
Well, the thing is, when it comes to Hillary stuff, I'm not on board.
Yeah.
When he talks about Star Fox, he definitely gets it. The only thing Andre is missing is going to the next level. He doesn't fully grasp the Star Fox experience. He has something I call a half opinion, not a full opinion. But,
yeah, I can't remember...
Gets it more than others, I would say.
Yeah, I think I unsubscribed from GameXplain because like they were pushing a lot of these unsubstantiated Nintendo NX rumors, which is why you can't really trust them. But I actually don't have an opinion on like their actual game reviews or anything like that. I just don't watch them
anymore because they've ruined the games I want to see because they go too in depth with their analysis. But I think overall they do a really good job in figuring out the game. So I do have real respect for the fact that they do figure out the games they're playing. That they're just bullshitting you entirely. They really believe what they're talking about.
Yeah, it's just I just don't like gaming YouTubers in general. It's just it's such a weird lifestyle. It's just why just have fun with it. Like don't spend all your time like analyzing trailers to like place locations and like
Breath of the Wild. It's unfulfilling in my eye. I mean, it's not like learning a skill and creating something.
Yeah, like it's not a real skill.
Off someone else's creation and then you're critiquing it. Like, what kind of existence is that? But
it's just
free country.
Yeah, I just don't really respect the lifestyle at all.
I get that too. It is weird as fuck. I must admit.
Yeah. Is there anything else to talk about when it comes to Star Fox? Do you want to complain about Starlink some more? Is that everything you wanted to talk about? I think that's it from my end.
Yeah, I guess that's everything. I don't really think maybe the comments have something to talk about. I'm looking at them, but there's not really anything going on.
Yeah, I'll look at the chat real quick to see if they want to talk about anything particular. It's just let's see. I think that's everything. I guess we could talk a little bit about where we want Star Fox to go in the future. I think we already talked about that a little bit. When it comes like the Switch release, we want it to be more like Zero. What could be done to improve the Zero formula?
What I would do is simply communicate the gameplay first and foremost. And I think it's really hard to predict what they're going to do because they definitely have a lot of crazy ideas. But what they should do is give not necessarily more routes, but they should give the vehicles more play times.
Oh yeah, I feel that way. Like I like the gyro wing, but like it just did not have enough.
Yeah, the gyro is really good, and a lot of people don't know how to use it.
Yeah.
But if they had more levels, maybe they would have figured it out.
Yeah, it only has like what, one full level where you go through it and like use all of its capabilities. It needed a lot more.
Is it the same with the Landmaster? Yeah, it is.
I don't think so. I think the Landmaster has a couple of levels. Yeah, it has like Fachina and it has Titanium. Yeah, it has a couple of levels. Like, but the Landmaster has sort of like a, you know, you've used the Landmaster before. It doesn't have the same sort of, it's not a new vehicle the way the Gyro Wing was. I was expecting the Gyro Wing to have a ton of really cool levels based on it, but you never really got that. Like, its big thing is like hacking, and you can do that with your R-Wing. So it's not really.
There's a lot of different combos you can do with the Gyro Wing, and I could probably surprise you with all the things you can do with it.
Yeah.
But that's another one of those instances where it's like a conceptual idea that's hard to visualize in your head because you have to go through so much trial and error to get to that point. And again, they have those silver tokens in the Gyro Wing. It's not really like a collectathon like Banjo-Kazooie or Mario where you're just like collecting coins and you get like a sticker. It's meant to teach you the game and how to expand upon that. And again, that's a conceptual idea. You can't visualize that in your head unless you've experienced it before. So it's bad persuasion play in the game design.
Yeah, so more Gyro Wing, more vehicles in general, you would say. I guess I would like the Blue Marine to make a return.
Maybe.
Yeah, like a more fleshed out Blue Marine. Like a fully all-range environment where you explore the area, look at it, you know, maybe have a first-person mode where you could like, you know, do stuff, make it more exploratory. I don't know. Like, you can do a lot of stuff with that, I think.
They probably come up with like different weapons or a different way how to like utilize the Blue Marine. Kind of like the Landmaster isn't exactly the same as it was in 60.
It did feel very different.
You can go backwards, you can go forward, you can increase the speed without boosting, and when you're in the Grabmaster, you can do a lot of different techniques to take down bosses really quickly.
Yep. Yeah, the Landmaster in Zero is a lot of fun to use. I wish that they had it more. I think that was Zero's main problem. My main big criticism of the game is that like it just did not have enough levels. I wanted to keep playing the game. Like
I do think it has enough levels, but I think the way how they went about structuring the levels was too intense. That's my takeaway.
Okay, yeah. I just wanted more content, like more bosses, more more levels to more missions. Because like when the game's good, it's really, really good. But like I just wanted like more moments like that. Like at the game is absolute hype.
Well, I mean the way how you can play the levels and how you can play them so drastically different. A lot of people didn't experience that side of the game. But
I have
a lot of work into that. But they could have just made it simpler by making more levels rather than compacting them in one level.
Yeah, because like the levels are a lot longer than they are in 64. A lot of people don't really talk about that. Levels go on for like.
A lot of people say Star Fox 64 is 2 hours long and Star Fox Zero is 2 hours long. That's actually false. Star Fox 64 is 45 minutes long.
Yep.
Star Fox Zero, if you never played it before, it's 4 hours long, and if you're really good at the game, it takes about 2 hours and a half to do one long playthrough.
Yeah. 64 is not as long as people remember it as being. It goes by really, really quickly.
Yeah, 64 does have missions that are very small in scale. A lot of people act like the levels are really small in Zero, but they're even smaller in 64. Like if you play Fachina, it's a really
Fachina comes to mind. Sector Z comes to mind. You can end you can lose Sector Z right away.
So what?
You can lose at Sector Z right away. Like get the missiles to hit the Great Fox, and the mission automatically ends. So
Right.
that goes pretty quickly.
Yeah, that's true. And what else? Well, I do have a criticism for 64, which I'm glad they did fix in Zero. It's the fact that you know how you fail some missions in 64 still progress the story.
Yeah.
I don't really like that because
What?
it makes it kind of drive. Because when you get really good at the game, you don't experience those moments
Well,
anymore.
no, I really like that because it makes what you're doing for when you fail, like it feels like you have an actual influence over the story. It feels like you don't win. It feels like you sort of.
Here's the problem I have with it. Kind of like in Zero, there's one scenario like that where if you shoot down Wolf, you do go to Fortuna. The problem with that is if you want to go to like Titania in arcade mode, you have to lose on purpose. I'm not really.
Yeah. Zero. I think Zero's implementation of it isn't as good as 64's because like I think the game was built first.
Or has a lot of those moments where you have to lose on purpose. Like if you want Slippy to get knocked down on Titania, you have to wait for him to get knocked down.
Yeah. Zero, I think.
Man, it's kind of a pain in the ass.
Yeah,
but
Zero.
I mean, that's agree to disagree kind of thing. That's not a make or break kind of thing for a game.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's just annoying. Let's see. 0, 0, 0. Let's see. What else would I fix? Again, I would love to see the gamepad come back, but that's not going to happen.
Well, they can definitely implement a lot of the gameplay from Star Fox Zero. I mean, in its own way.
Yeah, they're just going to have to retool it. Like maybe just make
but
it.
You can't have it exactly the same.
Yeah.
It is experience on the Wii U.
Yeah, we're gonna have to see what they do. I just don't see anything they're going to do being as good. Like I'm coming up with like if they use the right stick, you're gonna lose the perspective thing.
He wasn't going to have alternate paths at all for Star Fox Zero, but what he was going to do was have alternate missions on every planet with different vehicles for like the gyro wing.
Yeah.
Or the monster. And I think that could be a way of doing it. I think that could be pretty good. You don't necessarily need alternate paths, in my opinion.
Okay.
But you do need strategy. You do need to be able to have influence on the battle, if that makes sense.
Oof. Yeah. Oof. I think that's everything we needed to talk about. I think I need to be going, and yeah, this was a lot of fun.
Can't think of anything either.
Yeah, so I think that's the end of the stream. That's all we had to talk about today. Do you have any final closing thoughts about like what you think of like the Star Fox series and where you want to see it go from here, or anything you want to close off on?
I just want the games to keep expanding on what it's doing. Really.
Yeah. That's all I want as well.
That can be really hard to predict because they do get pretty creative with the gameplay. I just want them to really communicate the gameplay effectively so we don't constantly have to go in these pissing matches on my favorite Star Fox game. It becomes really stupid after a while.
Yeah, that was ridiculous. Oof.
That's it for me. Are you done?
Yeah, I'm done. I got to get going. I was streaming before this. I was doing all this stuff. Yeah, I need to go.
All right, man.
Well, yeah, it was nice talking to you. It was nice to have you. Thank you.
Yeah. All right. Talk to you later, man.
Yeah, bye. All right, so that's our Star Fox stream. Thank you for tuning in. I am planning a PlayStation State of Play stream tomorrow where I'll be doing live reactions to Sony's big "The Lesbians of Us 2" announcement. So I'm hoping I'll be able to do that live. I might not be able to. I should at least be able to cover it eventually. It might not be live, but we'll see just exactly what they show off tomorrow. Really looking forward to ripping that thing. The Last of Us 2 is going to be a disaster. Yeah, so please, I'll see you all next time. Thank you for tuning in.